Let's travel back in time. Not too far, but before the days of COVID, social distancing the lot. Back to 2019, where crowds of angry parents rallied outside a primary school in Birmingham, chanting, "Say no to the sexualization of children, stop exploiting children's innocence, stop brainwashing our children." From this, you would think the kids were watching porn in a Year 2 assembly. Alas, they were not. Instead, they had to read a book, not 50 Shades of Grey, but about a dog who didn't fit in, about two penguins raising a chick together, who so happened to both be men, about a boy who liked to dress up as a mermaid. The anger behind these protests immediately suggested that what the children were reading was wrong, was something worth fighting against. But I was the boy who dressed up as a mermaid. More specifically, it was a Cinderella dress, but I digress. I never cared because it never mattered. I was in a fortunate position where my parents didn't care how I dressed, whether that be a pirate one day or a princess the next. It wasn't until I got older, more specifically around age 7, that I truly understood I was quite different from most of my male peers. It was a difference I didn't like. It was a difference I spent the next several years trying to somewhat eradicate, because I saw the difference as wrong, as something I ought to change, as something not to be. And there will have been children in that school who, as they watched their parents chant Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, and preach against what they described as the school's pursuit of a paedophile agenda, that slumped in their chairs, because they were what their parents were fighting so hard against. Why is it that these parents are protesting against their children being taught how to masturbate, about pedophilia, and about anal sex, when the books they were reading were about acceptance? Why is it being gay is seen as so inherently sexual? And why is it society treats homosexuality as a contagious disease, spreading from child to child as they hear about the matter? Surely if it was so easy to change one's sexuality by reading a book where the characters happen to have a different sexuality than one's own, I would be a very different person following reading any book I read in primary school, ever. Being gay is not contagious. Us gays aren't dressed in pride flags, hunting down and recruiting the heterosexuals into our homosexual lifestyle. We're just trying to live our own lives. Now let's talk about Section 28, introduced in 1988 under Margaret Thatcher, so as to not promote the teaching in any maintained school of the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretended family relationship. As she believed, children who need to be taught to respect traditional moral values are being taught that they have an inalienable right to be gay. This law clearly conveyed the message that being gay was wrong, unnatural, a matter to be ashamed of. And whilst this was repealed UK-wide by 2003, it still leaves its mark today. In 2014, a Stonewall report on homophobic bullying in schools found that 37% of primary school teachers didn't even know if they could teach lessons on LGBT issues. How can we combat issues in schools regarding homophobia nationwide when those with the power to make change don't even think they can? The introduction of literature containing gay people and the usage of homosexual couples in addition to heterosexual ones in maths questions, for example, could all make a difference. Now, I'm not saying that asking if Timothy's two mums changes pocket money by 10%, what will it change to? Will eradicate homophobia and make everything all dandy? But it will begin to normalize same-sex couples. Homophobia has historically been rooted in legislation and society, and whilst we are beginning to make changes, we must continue to do so. Growing up different, although in a world where no one is the same, can be really quite daunting. For those who would argue it is damaging for children to be exposed to homosexuality, would they not accept that those hiding their identity and having those who share it with them from the curriculum are not the ones being damaged? The young people and sexual minorities who are 4 times more likely to report self-harming than their heterosexual counterparts. But damaged by what? Damaged by a world who taught them who they were was fundamentally wrong, whom they loved was whom they should hide. Damaged by the ignorant children who bully 50% of LGBT youth each year. The damage has always been here, just has been overlooked by a society so focused on hiding homosexuality. We will not hide. I was 14 when I came out. Some would say I was rather young, and I suppose that I was. Was I ready? No. But was it time? Yes. I no longer had to hide who I was. And yes, everyone had already guessed. Apart from a certain few who always thought I was really good with women. Nonetheless, I no longer had to hide who I was. Destigmatizing homosexuality from a young age will allow LGBT individuals to grow up not feeling the need to reject their identity. It will reduce ignorance and rejection from other people alike, thus reducing the bullying of LGBT youth. But, alas, government-backed projects targeting bullying of LGBT students were pulled in 2020. It is fundamentally clear to see that change must happen, and we must target these issues in schools to prevent the growth of the matter. But we cannot backtrack on the progress we've made thus far. Going forward, children must grow up seeing gay and straight couples alike. But this isn't a matter limited to homosexuality. Interracial parents, disabled people, different cultures, these all must be visible and represented in the curriculum to guarantee representation for all, so that no child grows up feeling different or wrong, so that no child is bullied for who they are, whether that be their race, religion, or sexuality. Representation matters and will help us abandon this image of homosexuality as purely sexual and tackle these issues in gay youth. I leave you with a quote from Zanele Mahoney. If I wait for someone else to validate my existence, it will mean that I am shortchanging myself. I shan't hide any longer, and hopefully, in the future, others won't too. Thank you.